Namaste, good evening to all. Welcome to Easy Ayurveda Gurukula, episode 3. Today's presenter will be Dr. Saujanya J. She'll be presenting on the topic Introduction of Vata Vyadhi, which is a very, very interesting topic for Ayurveda students and our Ayurveda fraternity. Sometimes easy, sometimes tough, and sometimes very difficult to understand. How much ever we explore this particular topic, it isn't quite enough. Dr. Saujanya J. So BMS MDIU, and she's pursuing her PhD, assistant professor in Department of Kaya Chikitsa in STM Institute of Ayurveda and Hospital, Bengaluru. Coming to the academic profile in brief, completed at BMS in SDM Ayurveda College, Hassan, MD Kaya Chikitsa in A.L. and Rao Ayurvedic Medical College, Koppa, pursuing PhD in Ayurveda Mahavidyalaya, Hubli, and MA in Sanskrit from Mysore. Awards, plenty of awards to presenter. International Best Research Scholar Award from International Society for Scientific Network Awards. And then the Real Superwoman Award in 2022, Rashtriya Ratna Samman Award 2022. So top 50 International Iconic Women's Awards 2022 as Iconic Researcher. She has been recognized as, and has received Young Researcher Award for the publication A Bird's Eye View on Incorporating Ayurvedic Principles and Treatment in the Management of Tennis Elbow, and other accomplishments being has been a resource person and has delivered many guest lectures, including Jignasa. Has 6 articles on very important topics published in various journals, and a lot of presentations in international and national seminars and conferences, as many as 11 papers she has presented on very good and rare topics, and participated in many conferences, seminars, CME, and workshop, at least at 98 venues. And coming to extracurricular activities, Rashtrapati Puraskar awardee in the category of Scouts and Guides, winner in state level quiz competition on diabetes mellitus, RGH's representation in ball badminton and handball tournaments, active participation in debates, competitions, quiz, and many more wherever it happens, and wherever she is interested to participate and inclined to, and received many awards and prizes. Coming to today's episode, Dr. Saujanya J will be presenting to us Introduction to Vata Vyadhi. Dr. Saujanya, welcome to our Easy Ayurveda Gurukula.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Easy Ayurveda, to provide me this opportunity. Good evening, all. Welcome to my session of Introduction to Vata Vyadhi. Moving into the introduction, the Vata Vyadhi comprises of mainly 2 words, that is Vata and Vyadhi. We have to understand what is Vata individually and what is Vyadhi individually, without which we can't understand what is Vata Vyadhi really. Moving into understanding of Vata dosha, we human beings are comprised of mainly 3 doshas, which are considered as 3 basic pillars in our body, and without these 3 basic pillars, that is the functional normalities, our body doesn't work. They are Vata, Pitta and Kapha. One among them is Vata dosha. Here our acharyas, the great ancient scholars, has given the primemost importance to Vata dosha compared to other 2 dosha. Why this primemost importance? Why the separate entity called as Vata Vyadhi have been explained in all the Samhita but not Pitta Vyadhi or Kapha Vyadhi? We will get an answer at the end of the session. Moving into the references which have been available by Vata is Acharya Charakacharya has entitled an entire chapter called as Vata Kalakaliya Adhyaya in Sutrasthana, and he detailedly emphasizes what is Vata dosha, what are its qualities, how does it works, how it has been stated outside the body and inside the body. I remember a verse such as Vayur Ayur Balam Hesham, Vayur Dhata Sharirinam, Vayur Vishwamidam Samyak, Prabhum Vayuriti Kirtitaha. Here the Charakacharya gives an utmost importance of Vata dosha. As we say, without air we can't live. Similarly, without Vata dosha, none of us can have any functional entities in our body, and without this our body doesn't work. And moving into the word meaning of Vata, Tatra va gati gandhanayoho iti dhatuhu. Understanding the word meaning of Vata is very, very important to understand what is Vata Vyadhi. So to go in detail, the word meaning of gati refers to jnana, gamana, and Prapti. And Gandhana refers to Utsaha and Suchana. I always remember in my BMS class teacher saying that Vata is confined to central nervous system, Pitta is digestive system, and Kapha is lymphatic system or any fluid in the body. But when we come across the word Vata, its meaning and its qualities and mainly the functions, it is really not so. Central nervous system or digestive system or lymphatic system can just be a part of these doshas. Why it is so, we will understand in the further slides. So, the Gnana refers to knowledge, Gamana refers to movement, and Prapti to obtaining or achievement. Here, the Gandhana word is nothing but Utsaha or Suchana, that is enthusiasm, information regarding Toda Adi Vedana, that are different kinds of pain and perceptions. Always there is a misinterpretation such as Gandha and Gandhana. Gandha is Grana Grahya Prithvi Gunaha iti Gandhaha, which refers to only the olfactory sensation, but the Gandhana refers to all the perceptions. Here we have to understand Vata is not only confined to any particular system. So the word Vata, based on all these things, consists of knowledge perception. So, what is this knowledge perception? We can understand this in two ways. One, the external perception to the internal body, and the cellular perceptions from one cell to the another cell. The movement minute to gross. What is this minute to gross movement? We had come across many theories in your biology from second year till the BMS final year, or even in our MD, that concept of diffusion, osmosis, intra extra cellular exchange, all this happens only by means of movement, and a gross movement such as moving our limbs, speaking, and all comes under the movement, responsible for all the activities from cellular level up to the systemic level by means of enthusiasm. What is this by means of enthusiasm? All our metabolisms from the cellular level needs energy. Without the energy, the cell cannot live. If the cell cannot live, we cannot live. The concepts of ATP, mitochondria, the energy transcription, everything is governed by the Vata dosha. The Vata dosha is primemost factor for developing and experiencing all kinds of pain. As I said, Rujam nasti vina vatat, both physical, psychological, and spiritual. Primarily, it is responsible for obtaining or achieving a greater heights. Here, the greater heights may be again understood in many ways. A person achieving a greater height without enthusiasm, a person cannot able to do any activity. If a person cannot able to do any activity, of course he can't achieve any height. That is one aspect. Second aspect, always to be a healthy environment in the body is necessary. So the Vata dosha is not only confined to a particular system, but it acts from the cellular level, tissue level, organ level, and the organ system level. Thus makes the difference between what we had understood before and what really is Vata dosha. To further understand how it is formed, what are the qualities, what are the function, I had taken up few concepts such as Panchaboutika constitution. Vayu Akasha Dhatubhyam Vayuhu. Always it has been stated that anything which is formed in this universe, either it is a materialistic object or a human being or any part of a human being, is Panchabhautika in nature. That is, which is made up of Prithvi, up, Vayu, Akasha, and Agni. Without these Panchamahabhutas, nothing can be formed. So here the Vata dosha is made up of Pancha Mahabhutika with predominance of Vayu and Akasha Mahabhuta. Here I said before that without air we can't live. So Vayu Mahabhuta in Vata, without that we can't live. Whereas Akasha gives us a space to live, space to achieve. That is considered as Panchabhutika constitution of Vata dosha. Moving into its gunas, there are many qualities which are being attributed to Vata dosha, such as Tatra Ruksha Laghu Shitaha Karas Sukshmas Chalo Anilaha. Along with that, Vishada and Yogavahi properties, especially the Yogavahi property, is a special character which has been given to Vata dosha. Here, the Ruksha Guna emphasizes the dry quality, Laghu Guna, the light ones, Shita, the cold ones, Kara, the rough, Sukshma, subtle or minute ones, Chala, which have mobility, Vishada, which clears or which have a clearness quality, and Yogavahi the property of adaptability. How to understand these qualities in our body and also how to understand this clinically. Since I'm a clinician, I'll be taking up one example to understand each one of those gunas. So, for example, in our body, nowadays it is very evident of ischemic attacks, atherosclerosis, and so on, where which there is accumulation of fat. Because of the Ruksha Guna, if Vata is proper, if the Ruksha Guna of Vata is in normalcy, this slimness or this attachment of this fat doesn't happens and the Ruksha Guna avoided. This is the normality of Vata dosha. If the same Vata dosha has been taken in abnormality, that is, if we consume excessive Ruksha Guna Ahara or if we take excessive Ruksha Guna Vihara, for example, nowadays, recently it has been very evident in case of diabetes mellitus that eating of siridhanyas, eat siridhanyas, control diabetes mellitus, so you will be happy. Fine, it controls diabetes mellitus, but what the siridhanyas or the sprouts are made up of, all those things are predominant of Ruksha Guna. If we eat this once a day, 15 days once, or 30 days once, that is fine. What people do once the advertisement is there, always they start eating it regularly, 3 times a day, 4 times a day, 10 times a day, and so on. So, because of this, the Ruksha Guna or the dry nature of the Vata dosha gets aggravated. Because of this aggravation, the primo symptoms what we are seeing clinically is knee joint pains. This is one example I want to take this because always the dosha should be maintained in a homeostasis or in an equilibrium state. If it is aggravated or if it is diminished, surely it will end up with one or the other disorders. Like that, many examples of Laghu Guna, Shita Guna, and Ruksha Guna can be interpreted. I am telling that the Yogavahi Guna of Vata is very important because the property of adaptability, the adaptability from the cellular level is very important to maintain the homeostasis. What is this Yogavahi Guna? योगवाही परं वायुः संयोगात् उभयार्थकृत् दाहकृत् तेजसा युक्तः शीतकृत् सोम संयुताः. So the vata adjusts to the environment. If it is with pitta, it attains the nature of burning guna, daha guna, or if it is with kapha, it attains the nature of getting a shita guna. For example, if we take a breeze or a wind, in summer season you all experience that it is always a hot breeze, but in winter season or near a lake it is always cold or a sweet breeze. Likewise, the vata also have a nature of adaptability which maintains the cellular homeostasis and cellular environment in the body. Next, moving into this are about Sharirika gunas where we can come across. Going into the Mano gunas, here mainly the three gunas have been attributed to our manas. Always for any disease or any condition, body and mind are very contributory. Without this body and mind contribution, there will be no disease at all. Nowadays, I listen most of my patients saying stress is the primemost factor for almost all diseases. There comes the importance of manoguna. Those are sattva, rajas, and tamas. Always the vata is associated with the rajoguna. The vata dosha corresponds to rajoguna, which states that which maintains an active state, passionate state, and even in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, these three gunas have been attributed, and rajas as aspiration, desire, passion, and even in the Yoga Sutras it has been attributed and it gives a meaning of quality of energy, movement, activity, ambition, and action. So, without Vata, nothing in our body can be done from to the cell level up to the systemic level. Karma, here it is very much important to understand the functions attributed to Vata to understand why Vata is not only a single system but it is a multiple component in our body. The first verse states that Pittam pangum kapham pangum pangavo maladhatavaha vayuna yatra niyante tatra gacchanti meghavat. So, among three dosha, as I said in my first slide, Vata dosha is most predominant. Why? Because it is omnipotent, it has movement in all directions, and it is the quickest of all and controls every action of the body. That is why our Acharya said that Pitta is inert, Pittam Pangum. Kapha is inert because they don't have movement. And the Mala and Dhatu, mainly the Trimala has been stated in our classics, that is Purisha, Mutra, and Sveda, and Saptadhatus, Rasa, Rakta, Mamsa, Meda, Majja, Asthi, and Shukra. So all these things doesn't move from one place to another place and it is inert. It is the Vata dosha which drives them all. A simile has been attributed here just as a cloud is driven by the wind in a normal state. Mark this word, it is very, very important. In a normal state, Vata dosha drives all these entities to various parts of the body to maintain the homeostasis. So, what is this Pitta the inert? Inert or not potent to move. That is Pitta, Kapha, Dhatu, Mala, everything 100% have their own particular seats within the body, have their own particular functions to do, but they remains in the places. They can act, but they don't have power of independently moving from one place to another. It is the Vata dosha which has the power of imparting motion to other body entities. So I would like to take two clinical examples here considering two diseases, that is Atisara and one is Padadaha. Here in case of Atisara, Kapha, Pitta, Dhatu are stationary. In case of Vata, when it gets vitiated, this vitiated Vata does Atisarana of Dosha and Mala, causing Atisara. Here the Srotodushta is Atipravriti, which is excessive in nature. Even in case of Padadaha, here Pitta is stationary. When Vata gets vitiated, again this vitiated Vata carries Pitta to Pada and causes Padadaha, that is burning sensation in feet. Here the Srotodushta is Vimarga Gamana, that is moving away from its normal path. Always we have to remember that in many of the diseases, if we control or if we subside or if we bring back the vata to its normal state, our 90% of the work is done and 10% the other doshas gets corrected by itself. Moving into second primemost function of vata which has been attributed is Vayus Tantra Yantradharaha Prana Udana Samana Vyana Apanatmaha Niyanta Praneta Cha Manasaha सर्वेन्द्रियार्थानाम् अभिओडाः सर्वेन्द्रियाणाम् उद्योजकः सर्वशरीरधातुव्यूहकरः सन्धानकरः शरीरस्य प्रवर्तको वाचः प्रकृतिः स्पर्शशब्दयोः श्रोत्रस्पर्शनयोर्मूलम् हर्षोत्साहयोर्योनिः समीरणो अग्नेः दोषसंशोषणः क्षेप्ता बहिर्मलानां स्थूलाणुस्रोतसां भेत्ता कर्ता गर्भाकृतीनाम् आयुषो अनुवृत्ति प्रत्ययभूतो भवति अकुपितः. So I'll be taking up this individual terms. What does it means? So here Vayuhu Tantra Yantradaraha, all these functions are attributed to the Vata dosha which is present in normal state. So the word Tantra refers to Sharira, that is body, and Yantra means Sharira Avayava, body parts consisting of senses, mind, and up to the level of even Atma. So Dhara is to keep control. So the Vata dosha is the one which keeps in control of all these physical, psychological, psychosensorial activities of the body in a normal state. Moving into Pravartakas Cheshtanam Ucha Avachanam. It is the originator of every kind of action of the body, senses and mind. Without a response, there is no stimuli. So, Niyanta Praneta Cha Manasaha. It regulates and guides the mind. That is, it restrains the mind from indulging in undesirable objects and guides to do desirable objects. Always we end up in diseases when we tend to do undesirable objects. Always we end up with Vata Vyadhi when we tend to eat, when we tend to do the activities which is not healthy for our body. So, when the vata is there in our body in a normal state, it always maintains it. Sarvendriyanam Udyojakaha. It coordinates all the sense faculties with their objects. In our Samhita, there are mainly explanation of Ekadasha Indriyaha. 5 Gnanendriya, 5 Karmendriya, and 1 Upayendriya. Whereas Gnanendriyas are Chakshuhu, that is eyes, the 5 sensory organs, ears, nose, tactile sensation, that is skin, and the mouth. And the karmendriyas have been attributed to Vak Panipayu Pada Upastaha, that is hands, legs, the orifice from where the excretion takes place, and Ekadasha Indriya, that is primemost one Indriya is Manas, that is mind. Always when there is stimuli, there is response. All these things will be attributed to Vata dosha. Sarvendriyarthanam abhiodaha. It carries out the perceptions of all the senses from the respective objects towards the mind. There is a verse or Jnanotpatti Prakara stating that when a sense organs receive senses from their objects, it should reach the manas. From the manas, it should reach the Atma. Then only a proper metabolism can maintain. All these things from the physical world to the spiritual world, it is maintained by Vata dosha. Sarva Sharira Dhatu Vyuhakaraha means the Vata dosha is arranging and placing the body constituents at their proper place from the age of gestation till the end. So, even for the Shukra Shonita Samyoga, Vayu is the primemost factor. Without the normalcy of Vata, this doesn't happen. Then, Sandhanakaraha Sharirasya. It connects and adjoins all the body constituents in proper way. Then Pravartako Vachaha. It is an initiator and generator of speech. Prakriti Sparsha Shabdayoho. Prime causative factor for perception of touch and sound. Shrotra Sparsha Nayor Moolam. Root cause of the auditory and tactile faculties. As I said, it is not only the olfactory sensation, but all the sensations comes under the purview of Vata dosha. Harshotsahayor yonihi. It is the prime cause for the manifestations of pleasure and enthusiasm. Samirano agnehe. Why not only central nervous system? Here comes this. So, without this Vata dosha, there will be no ignition of the body fire. That is where the digestive and metabolic unit comes here. Dosha samshoshanaha. It dries up excess of moisture which is accumulated in the body and subside the provoked dosha. As I said already, the example of atherosclerotic changes. Then Kshepta Bahirmalanam. Again, one more system. It expels out all the waste products from the body like urine, feces, etc. Then Sthulanusrotasam Bhetaha. It is due to Vata dosha, that is every kind of channels, macroscopic, microscopic, are formed within the body. Again, the cellular process of mitosis, meiosis plays a role here. Karta Garbhakritinam, primemost cause which is responsible for the formation of different structures of fetal body in an embryonic development. Ayusho Anuvritti Pratyaya Bhuto Bhavati Akupitaha. It is the primemost indicative and preservative cause of the continuity of span of life. Thus, Vata dosha attributes from the cell to every system of the body. Moving into next functional aspect, उत्साहोच्छ्वास निश्वास चेष्टा वेग प्रवर्तनैः सम्यक् गत्या च धातूनाम् अक्षानां पाटवेन च उत्साहोच्छ्वास निश्वासः चेष्टा धातुगतिः समाः समो मोक्षो गतिमतं वायोः कर्म विकारजम्. So what does it states? Utsaha, again enthusiasm. Here it refers to physical and psychological attributed. When the physical and psychological equilibrium of the body is maintained, a person always shows his enthusiasm in fulfilling his desires. Here, always the ichha or desire to maintain a health or a dhatu samyata. And being a psychological entity which is the result of positive health. As I said, body and mind are always interrelated. Without keeping the mind calm, the body doesn't function. Always if there is disturbance in mind, 100% there will be disturbance in body. So both of them should be maintained equally. So by this factor, a person achieves the perfection as well as satisfaction in action and life. So the two entities on physical level, acceleration or hurry to perform an action can be known as stimulus. At a mental level, energy and quickness. And the combination of both qualities are attributed as utsaha. The next term, that is uchvasa nichvasaha, that is the respiratory activity. This action of Vata is mainly performed with help of Pranavaha Srotas, a very important activity which denotes the life in the living beings. Always a verse says, Nabhistaha Prana Pavanaha, that is the air which is situated in the Nabhi comes out and takes the air back in. This primost function is mainly because of Vata dosha. Next is Cheshta. Here the Cheshta refers to proper actions of speech, mind, and body. The various external, internal, physical, chemical actions that are the symbols of life are attributed to Vata dosha starting from your Krebs cycle. The Vata dosha is responsible for all types of activities in living beings such as upward direction, downward direction, contraction, dilatation. Every movement from a minute level up to the gross level is mainly because of Vata dosha. All the reflexes, impulses, natural urges are controlled by Vata dosha. Samyak gatya cha dhatunam or dhatu gatihi samaha. So what is this? As already I had so told, there are mainly sapta dhatus which has been contributed. These are the tissues or organ system without which the function doesn't happen. So Vata dosha maintains an equilibrium or balance by the main theme of bedrock of health, that is proper digestion, assimilation, distribution of nutrients up to the each cell, which is required for the positive health, are mainly because of Vata dosha. Then Sama Moksho Gati Matam, that is proper excretion of the waste products. Again, Trimanas, Purisha, Sweda, and Mutra, that is the feces, urination, and sweat. The excretion of this is very much essential. Otherwise, we'll end up with many systemic disorders. Here, the Vata dosha bears the responsibility to keep them mobile and to excrete them properly. Different gross and subtle channels are created by Vata dosha and throws out this excreta from the body. Again, the concept of complete the renal system. Then I've taken four examples how this expiration or excretion goes on. One is by means of expiration, which throws out carbon dioxide from the body because Vata is the one which maintains our respiration. By sneezing and spitting the obstructive material which is excreted or removed, it is the physiological process which happens in our body when some dust enters into it. The urine, feces, sweat, and other products are mainly excreted by different actions of Vata dosha, without which there is no movement. Different urges in the body. Here mainly I won't go in detail with what are these urges. I'll take example of one or two such as feces or urine which can be easily understood. This urges, whenever we feel to micturate, we have to. If we keep controlling or prolonging this action, we will end up with many doshas or many diseases. So the Vata dosha is the one which mainly deals with this Vega Pravartana. And the last function in this is Akshanam Patavenacha. It is solely responsible for proper perception of sense objects by sense organs. And the final function attributed to Vata dosha, Tatra Praspandana Udvahana Purana Viveka Dharanaha Vayu Shariram Dharayatihi. So what does it mean? Praspandana is nothing but Sharirasya Chalanam. All the activities. It is like a prime conclusion of all these functions which has been attributed to Vata dosha. Udvahana, again Indriyarthanam Dharana, responsible for proper perception of sense objects by sense organs. Puranam Aharena, proper propulsion of food up to the level of excretion. Vivekaha Rasa Mutra Purishanam Prithakkaranaha, which implies the separation of essence and waste products. Essence has been can be taken from the carbohydrate metabolism, protein metabolism, lipid metabolism, which starts from the salivary amylase and end up in different organs. Then dharana, shukra mutradinam vegakale karma karanam avegakale dharanam. Retention and evacuation of urine, semen and feces. Then the primemost concept is next is Vruddi Kshaya. Till now we had understood what is really the Vata dosha, what are the qualities attributed to it, what are the primemost functions the Vata does in our body. After understanding of all these things, till now the normalcy. So Vata Vyadhi, to understand the disorders, we have to understand two major concepts, that is Vruddi, aggravated concept, and Kshaya is a diminished concept. Here there are two kinds of understanding. One is Gunatmaka Vriddhi Kshaya, second one is Samanya or Pramanatmaka Vriddhi Kshaya. So what is this Gunatmaka Vriddhi Kshaya? Always when we take an object, it have its own qualities, it have its own function. Similarly, Vata also have. So the qualitative increase or decrease of the Vata dosha implicates with the increase or decrease qualitatively is considered as Gunatmaka Vriddhi. For example, I had enlisted so many gunas, among which I'll take an example of Shita Guna and Chala Guna. If there is Shita Guna Vriddhi, always Vriddhi is excessive, prolonged. By consuming of Shitala Ahara, Vihara, now we can take example that there was a summer, suddenly due to cyclone effects, there is rainy season. You go because of rain, you are overwhelmed, you take an ice cream, go in an air, have it, the Shita Guna increases. Again, it ends up with Vriddhi of Vata dosha in the body because it has similar guna in it. Second is Chala Guna. When the movement of the Vata attains Kshaya or diminished, it causes Karma Hinata. Many functions doesn't happen or it happens in a diminished way. Second understanding is Samanya or Pramanatmaka Vriddhikshaya, which implies quantitative increase or decrease of Vata dosha as a single entity. That is, the Vata alone attains Vriddhata or Kshayata, that is aggravation or diminution in compared to other two doshas. For example, Karshata, which is emaciation, Alpabhashata. Without Vata, of course, we can't speak because all the attributes are confined to Vata dosha. So here the Alpabhashata refers to diminished quantity of Vata dosha. So I'll be taking up the Lakshanas which has been attributed as Vriddhi Lakshana and Kshaya Lakshana. So the Vriddhi Lakshanas which has been attributed are Karsha Kashnoshna Kamitva Kampanaha Shakradgridan Bala Nidrendriya Bhramsha Pralapa Brahmadinataha. So this Karsha is emaciation. Here it may be qualitative increase or quantitative increase. The aggravated state of Vata produces these symptoms in our body. So Kashna, such as various discoloration, especially the blackish one, Ushnakamatva, decide towards hot substances. Why? Shita Guna is decreased. When there is diminished of Shita Guna, always we feel to have something hot when we feel cold. Same thing has been attributed here. Kampa, various involuntary movements. Anaha, a kind of bloating or abdominal distension. Shakradgriha, hard stools or a state of constipation. Bala Bhramsha, again the loss of strength. Nidra Bhramsha, loss of sleep. Indriya Bhramsha, loss of sensory functions. Pralapa, that is increased or irrelevant speech. Bhrama, delusions or giddiness. Dainyam Janayatihi, a state of disease state which gains attention of others is Denata. Again, Vakya Parushyata, hoarseness of voice. Gatra Spurana, tingling sensation. Sukha Upagata. When there is disease state, obviously we won't be happy. So that is a loss of state of happiness. Ayushaha Upagata, diminished life expectancy. As I said, Vayuhu Prabhuriti Kirtitaha. To maintain our life, Vata is primemost factor. Manovyaharshana, psychological pain, because without Vata there is no pain. Again, Sarvendriyana Upahanti, loss of response and stimuli, and from sensory objects doesn't perceive its sensations. Vinihanti garbham vikritim apadayanti garbham atikalam dharayati. Various intrauterine and fetal issues. Bhaya, Shoka, Mohan Janayati generates a state of fear, grief, and illusion. And at last, as I said, without Vata, there is no prana, loss of life. So we should be very, very, very careful to maintain a normalcy of Vata dosha. Moving into Kshaya Lakshana, Alpepi Cheshtitehe, that is Angasadaha, lethargy with mild pain, Alpabhashitaha, Alpavaktavyam. always Vata is the one which is an energy, which is an initiator. When it is diminished, there will be less inclination towards speech. Ahita bhashitaha, maybe irrelevant speech. Sanya, mohaha, mudha sanyataha, altered state of consciousness, it affects to that level. Shleshma vruddhyaptamaya sambhavaha. What is this Shleshma vruddhyaptamaya sambhavaha? Symptoms due to Shleshma vruddhi. Always the Vata and Shleshma have reciprocation gunas or qualities within which Vata is Ruksha, whereas Shleshma is Snigdha. Here it is dry, there it is unctuous. Whenever there is diminished of Vata dosha, we feel that Shleshma guna has been increased. Then Manda Cheshtata, always it is diminished or sluggish activities, and Aprahashaha, that is lack of enthusiasm. So, after understanding this Vruddi Kshaya, the aggravated nature of Vata dosha in the body and diminished nature of Vata dosha in the body, we have to understand the types of Vata basically before entering to understanding what exactly the Vata Vyadhi is. So primarily there are five Vata Bheda or five types which has been attributed such as Prana, Udana, Samana, Apana and Vyana. Each one of them have a specific functions of its own and specific sides of it. First, let me take the Pranavata. Praniti Jivati Bahukalamitihi, which is responsible for maintenance of life, is Pranavata. Whereas a verse says, Prano Atra Murdhagaha Buddhi Hridayendriya Chittadruk Shthivana Kshavatu Udgaraha Nishwasanna Pravesha Kritaha. So all the things were we have to ingest it. The ingestion of air, ingestion of food, everything is maintained by Pranavata and it is the one which maintains the life of a person. Next is Udanavata. Ut urdhvam aniti anenaha, which has upward movement, is considered as Udanavata. So, what is this upward movement? What are the attributes we can contribute to this upward movement? उदानोः उरः नास नाभिगलांश्चरेत् वाक् प्रवृत्तिः प्रयत्न ऊर्जाः बलवर्ण स्मृतिक्रियाः. All the things from the speech aspects, what we want to expel it out, what we want to tell outside, all these things are ground by Udanavata. Then Samanavata. Samantad Samantadi Nityaneniti Satu Nabhi Samsthitaha. It is situated at Nabhi Pradesha and is essential for the process of digestion is called as Samanavata. Samano Agni Samipastaha Koshte Charati Sarvataha Annam Grinhati Pachati Vivechayati Munchatihi. That is complete digestion metabolism is governed by Samanavata. Then Vyanavata. Vyanena itihi sarva shariram vyapnoti itihi, that is which circulates all over the body, which governs every aspect and all the movements is considered as Vyanavata. Vyano kritsna deha jari mahajavaha gatya gati apakshepana utkshepanah nimesha unmeshanadikaha. So it is the one which governs each and every movement, each and every activity in the body. And the primemost and at last it is Apanavata, which possesses the downward movement or moves in downward direction. Apano apanagaha shtoni basti medra urugocharaha garbha artava shakran mutra nishkramana kriyaha. Means, as I said, the Vega Pravartana Kriyaha, what and all it has to be expelled out of the body is mainly because of Vyana dosha. So after understanding basically what is Vata dosha, we have to understand the Vyadhi part. Here the Vata part is almost done. And what is the Vyadhi referred to? Vividha adhayo asmat iti Vyadihi. Vividham dukkham adadati iti Vyadihi, which produces different kinds of pain. Kaya, vak, manasi, pedaha. That is a state of diseased condition is considered as Vata Vyadhi. So after listening and understanding what is Vata and what is Vyadhi, we'll come across three different aspects in our mind. So what is this Vata Vyadhi? So Vata eva Vyadihi Vata Vyadihi, Vatena Janito Vyadihi Vata Vyadihi, Vikrita Vata Janito Asadharana Vyadihi Vata Vyadihi. What does it means of? Before that, let me give you the references where the Vata Vyadhi have been explained in our Samhitas, such as in case of Charakacharya, he gives an entire chapter in his Chikitsa Sthana for Vata Vyadhi, and Sushrutacharya gives two primost chapters such as Vata Vyadhi and Mahavata Vyadhi Adhyaya, and Acharya Ashtanga Hridayakara gives an entire chapter of Vata Vyadhi even in Nidana Sthana and Chikitsa Sthana. So, what does this three refers to? Vata eva vyadihi, vatena janito vyadihi, vikrita vata janito asadharana vyadihi. So, vata vyadi, when we see these two terms, so the disease which is caused by vata dosha is called as vata vyadi. Is it really so? All the diseases which are caused by vata dosha can be considered as vata vyadis? Absolutely not. So, Vata eva vyadihi, Vata vyadihi, 100% it is not proper because it states that or it means that Vata itself is a vyadhi. Vata eva vyadihi. So, Vata is obviously not a vyadhi, it is not a disease state, it is a dosha. So, this definition doesn't holds good to understand what is Vata Vyadhi. The next concept of Vatena Janito Vyadihi Vata Vyadihi. So it looks quite okay when we take this verse. Vatena Janito Vyadihi, the disorders or diseases which are formed because of Vata dosha can be considered as Vata Vyadhi. Again, it is not so because all the diseases which are caused due to Vata dosha cannot be attributed here. First thing, Prakrita Vata cannot cause any Vyadhi as I stated. Understanding of Vruddi and Kshaya is very important. So, Prakrita Vata doesn't cause any Vyadhi, only the Vikrita Vata can cause Vyadhi. And Vata dosha involvement is there in almost all diseases because it contributes every part in our body, considering from Jwara, Vataja Jwara, Atisara, Vataja Atisara. So it does not imply Vata Vyadhi as a separate entity and a special disease. The best or understanding of Vata Vyadhi is by means of this verse, that is Vikrita Vata Janito Asadharana Vyadihi Vata Vyadihi. So, a disease which is caused by Vikrita Vataha, which is in its abnormal state. It may be Vruddi or Kshaya, qualitative increase, qualitative decrease, quantitative increase, quantitative decrease, Asadharana Vyadihi, a special set of disorders where Vata only is the culprit can be considered as Vata Vyadhi. So, to conclude, Vikrita Vata Janito Asadharana Vyadihi becomes a best version to understand Vata Vyadhi, that is a special set of diseases caused due to Vikrita, that is vitiated Vata, is considered as Vata Vyadhi. To sum up the things, Vata is the primost among all the three doshas because we had studied Pittam Pangum Kafam Pangum Pangavo Maladhatavaha Vayuna Yatra Niyanti Tatra Gachanti Meghavat. It has got primary role from the birth to death of an individual, starting from union of Shukrashonita, development and growth of the body up to the end of the life. Functioning of Vata, as I said, is not only confined to any particular system. Instead, it functions at a level of each cell, tissue, organ, and organ system. It is the primost dosha which is responsible to maintain a health of an individual if it is maintained properly, and if not, it is solely responsible for many disease conditions which may become even vital. Again, Vyadhi refers to Dukkhakari Roga, diseases which makes a person to experience physical as well as psychological pain. Thus, all the special set of diseases which are caused due to Gunataha, that is quantitative, qualitative, Karmataha, functionally Visheshan of Vata Dosha, are termed as Vata Vyadhi. So, thank you.
I want to know about the Vata. Or Vata itself is a dosha, or what, if not?
Your question is, what is Vata? Is it a dosha?
Yeah, whether it is a dosha only
Hmm?
or other than that. Because whatever the properties have been now discussed,
Hmm.
whether they are the doshas of Vata
Hmm.
or what is meant by exact Vata, if they are not.
So, Vata is only dosha? No. If we understand dosha as dushayanti iti doshaha, it gives a different meaning. Here, vata is the one which maintains a normalcy in our body, which attributes to dosha. Dhatu and Mala. Even a verse says that Dosha is attributed in his normal state as a Dhatu, as a Mala, and everything which is normally functioning in our body. So Vata is attributed to all these entities. But if we take the word Dushayanti itihi doshaha in that sense, Vata here, it doesn't imply to Vata.
Yeah.
So only I am asking whether what are the characters, what are the lakshanas of the vatas has been explained now. Ruksha, Lagu, Hara, whatever it has been explained, they are the characters of normal vata. Means which are not going to harm the body, which is told by our acharya. Because it is explaining about only vata, not the vata dosha. When it is increased or maybe decreased, they may be going to be act reversible. When, as you mentioned, that excessive ruksha food consumed, then ruksha guna will be increased. When in a normal person, the ruksha is quite common, according to the seasonal. Whether at that time that vata is a normal vata, there is not going to be harm anywhere. Just it's a vata because as we studied that vata is also be a dhatu when it is considered as in a normal state. So I want to be make clear that
Absolutely, yes,
whatever
sir.
the characters, whatever
Because
the lakshanas have been explained,
yes, sir, you are absolutely right because all the qualities I had taken it separately and Vruddi Kshaya had taken it separately to make understand the normalcy and abnormal state of Vata dosha. So there the
yeah, yeah,
differentiation
definitely.
is on.
Because wherever you have been explained, because wherever you explained, these are the lakshanas of vata dosha have been mentioned. Is it no? You have
That only
mentioned
the dosha
everywhere.
word
These are
I
the
meant to
qualities
is
of
dosha,
vata
dhatu
dosha.
and mala in a normal state.
My opinion, sir. Whatever the
Mm.
qualities has been given regarding the vata, sir, they are
Mm.
all the mentioned about the healthy vatas. That is called as a dhatu.
Yes.
Vata itself
Mm.
is in a dhatu. All the doshas also be a dhatu when they are in a normal state. So I think that
Absolutely,
whatever
yes.
the qualities mentioned, all are being as a dhatu, means vata, not the doshas. As a dhatu, they are the best characters to show about the presence of vata in our body. Sir. This is one mind, sir.
Mm.
And the second one it is it has been mentioned that Vata is not only the central nervous system. And in
Yeah.
that, she given beautiful clarifications for that and all.
Mm.
According to my knowledge, I am telling, as my opinion, just only. Because if you want to do urination, the stimulation should be come from this. As said that Vata is not only a central nervous system, and it is completely having all the because I want to be tell that she given the beautiful examples of that for Purisha, Sukra, stimulations,
Mm.
whatever it may be. If you want to do any thing in our body, it has to be a stimulation from our central nervous system. I given that examples, but I will tell that the entire whole system of our body has been maintained on the basis of stimulation that has been generated from our brain as well as central nervous system. Without Vata, even central nervous system also not works.
I just meant that Vata is not only confined to central nervous system. Central nervous system is 100% a part of Vata. Vata is confined to all the systems in the body, including central nervous system.
Mm.
I think it is clear.
Is vata imbalance the same as lactic acid accumulation in the body, or is it the pathway to vata imbalance?
It can be understood in both the ways. Since you stay in a country where the lactic acid imbalance is quite normal, because of that, the aggravation vata takes place and you end up with the pains. And in a vice versa way, because of the aggravation of vata, there will be lactic acid accumulation and you are ending up with the pain. So ultimate goal is to control the vata, is to maintain the vata to avoid the pains.
The other question is lactic acid, is it the same as ama?
The AMA concept is totally different according to me. It
Okay.
can be part of it.
Give your expert advice on this case of 48-year-old female rogi. The complaint is a feeling of racing chest palpitations, hands went for tingling and numbness, severe headache. Blood pressure went up to 159/80. Vision started getting blurry. Hands and leg was turning blue and fingers were getting curly before reaching hospital. Also having pain behind right breast squeezing, past periodontal Vyadhi from childhood.
So this can be considered under a part of Vata Vyadhi, but many things we have to dig upon again in a history part. So basically, based on the history what has been given, we can plan for Vatahara kind of treatment. Basically, a Sarvanga Abhyanga followed by mild Sveda, which gives lot of relief from all these things. Then we can plan a Basti based on by means of Vata Vyadhi, but we have to go through investigations such as ECG, and we have to rule out the Reynolds phenomena and so on. Then we can start with the treatment.
Vata Prana relationship. So can you establish the Vata Prana relationship with a question mark? That's a small question. Any relationship, what kind of relationship they have?
So we can answer this in two ways. One is Vata and Prana relationship outside the body and inside the body. As we all know, without the Vata or Vayu, we can't live. Without air, none of the human beings can live in this world. Similarly, without the Vata dosha, without performing any cellular metabolism, a person cannot able to maintain his healthy life. Without maintaining the healthy life, always he ends up in ending his life. There, the Vata and Prana relationships goes on.
What's your point of view on palmar plantar hyperhidrosis?
After completion of all set of Vata Vyadhis, I'll surely take up this question back.
So we will have future sessions with Dr. Saujanya where she'll be dealing with Vata and Vata Vyadhi, because we know that it's a big entity. So Vata is a big entity and Vata Vyadhi is a big entity. To understand and crack and also decode that phenomenon is itself an uphill task and a challenging task. Dr. Saujanya is here for making those things clear and also easier to understand the Vata and Vata Vyadhi concept. Namaste from Easy Ayurveda. Thank you.